Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. My goal here in the little bit of time that I have is to share some of my thoughts about technology, where things are going, things I'm thinking about. Because many of you that certainly are on the sales team are in front of agencies all day, every day. You see what they're doing, and perhaps even more so, you see what they're not doing and what they might need to be preparing for. Well, part of what Vertafore does is come up with solutions, right, in all kinds of different areas to help your agency clients, your carrier client, right, the whole gamut of the industry that you deal with. And so I've kind of put this talk in terms of the customer experience, because in my mind, that is what is important today. In fact, I mentioned talking a little bit earlier, I'm personally working on getting rid of the term customer service, because I don't think that's what agencies certainly need to do anymore. It's the customer experience that is going to be key for them to be successful, certainly as all kinds of different things are changing. And so let's take a look here a little bit. And I want to kind of start with a story that happened last month. Karen, my wife, and I were driving to the airport. We actually went to Chicago for a long weekend. Yeah, December in Chicago, what were we thinking? But we went to a show, went to a Christmas party, and we were driving to the airport, and we were talking about kind of what to do. Normally, I drop her off with her luggage because she and I travel differently. So she needed a little extra time to check her luggage, right, and do that. And so we actually started talking about who was going to get the Starbucks once we got to the airport. Now, by the way, some of you who travel like I do, here's a tip. You know you travel too much when the Starbucks at the airport knows your drink. So we were talking about Starbucks, right? And we were arguing. No, I'll get it, honey. Don't worry. No, and she would say, no, I'll get it, honey. Don't worry. Why? Well, because I pulled up, right? Pay on the app. How many here have the app, right? Pay on the app. And when you pay on the app, what do you get? Stars, right? I'm gold. And so we are arguing about who's going to get the stars. We don't care about the other piece of it. And so you go up, you scan the card, right? And you move on from there, and then there's the gold stars. And this is just a little bit of a microcosm picture of a customer experience. What's Starbucks done with my wife and I? Haven't they hooked us in? Haven't they given us a different experience? And by the way, what do I get in my email? I got it earlier this week. I got an email that said, hey, you get 4 bonus stars if you buy a breakfast sandwich. Guess what I did yesterday morning? And so I want to talk about some steps to actually build a great customer experience. And these are the 6 steps. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. But I want to use this as a framework for talking about what Vertafore needs to be looking at in terms of creating a great customer experience, one, for your customers, and also for the products, the development, what you're looking at helping agents create on their end. And so we'll take a look at these in steps. So first is understand shifts in expectations. And I think many of us are experiencing that on a day-to-day basis. It's just kind of the insurance industry is what would you say, a little further behind, perhaps? Well, let's take a look at some of the shifts. Now, I call them reimagining. So we've reimagined computing, haven't we? How many here have a tablet? How many here have an iPhone 6 Plus? Yeah, I got one, right? And I've kind of finally decided the reason I really like it is because I'm old, and I can actually read it now. But this whole idea of computing platforms that people use is completely being redefined. And certainly with Platform 2015, with your move from a client base to agnostic, meaning any device at any time that anybody wants to use, is a shift that you're making, helping your clients be able to adapt to that. How about communication? Is that being reimagined? Can you even find a public payphone anymore? Occasionally, actually, I found some, right? Yeah, in London, maybe. I actually found some, and I took a picture of it so I could actually use it in my demonstrations and my talks and things like that. But we're redefining what it actually means to be connected, and maybe even thinking differently about when not to be connected. So again, on the plane yesterday, right, a flight from Dallas up here, had a good several hours of work time, and I actually consciously don't connect to Wi-Fi when I'm flying. But I got all kinds of stuff done because I was able to focus. But what that communication might mean, and by the way, I'm going to come back to this because the communication that an agency has with their clients is an area for great development because they're not communicating real well yet. How about news reporting? Again, quick idea here, quick picture, right? Twitter, and how do you get your news? I mean, I don't really read papers. I usually glance through the USA Today when I'm traveling, but I get it either from various places. And my attitude, honestly, is I will, if the news is important, it'll find me, won't it? Right? So all kinds of different things. It kind of percolates up, and if it's important, otherwise, it's a distraction. How about reimagining reading? Now, one of my hobbies is cooking. I really enjoy it. By the way, gentlemen, my wife completely supports my hobby. When I'm home, I cook. When I'm not, she orders. But one of my cooking magazines that I've had for many, many years is Bon Appetit, right? And they've reimagined what a magazine looks like on a tablet device, on a mobile device. They haven't just done a PDF of the magazine and put it on there, but they've reimagined. And so one of the interesting things they have now is called the recipe mode. So you can read through, right, and touch on a recipe and go to kind of read the description of the recipe and the ingredients, but then you can touch on recipe mode. And when you go into recipe mode, big screen now, step 1. Description, here's the steps for that particular point. Step 2, step 3, step 4. So I have a stand in my kitchen. And I can do what? Swipe when I'm done with step 1, swipe when I'm done with step 2, and walk through that recipe, reimagining how I interact with that information. So how does that affect you? How does that affect agencies? Well, I actually question, why are your systems still printing out Word documents for proposals and summaries? Why not reimagine what that might actually look like and make it an iBook, make it interactive, make it touch, right? When we start thinking about where things are headed, how people are consuming information, how as a salesperson I actually get a prospect to agree to purchase the insurance program that I put together for them, are their expectations changing? And I think they are. So how are we rethinking maybe the standard stuff that we have there? So reading is a really interesting one to me. Note-taking, right? How does a producer gather information when they're out with a client? And now many have tablets. And so am I taking pictures? And what you see up here is Evernote. I love Evernote. My life is in Evernote. I have everything in Evernote. And if you don't know it, that's okay. There are other options, could be OneNote or something like that, but I think there's an interesting way there to capture information, and then for you, okay, how do I get that into the client file? How do I make that a part of that ecosystem, either through WorkSmart or attachments, or what might that actually look like? But rethinking for the producer side, the information that they might actually need. Reimagining files and folders, right? So we've got all the cloud-based stuff and Box and Dropbox and Drive and all of the various things out there, but how do we reimagine even moving things back and forth? Now, by the way, I suspect many of you know this. I am astounded at how many agencies I go into that still have files, paper file folders, right? You see it? So we talk about all of this electronic document management, and my message to many agencies is, yes, you're doing electronic document management. The only problem is you're doing it badly. And you're creating problems and issues. So how do we streamline that particular area and option and technologies there? From an agency perspective, and again, how does that affect Vertafore? But from an agency's perspective, isn't attracting clients in one of the things they need to do? So how do we build in a process to getting ratings and reviews on various sites? Yelp's just one of them. Yellow Pages. Agents loved Yellow Pages. I hope there's not too many that are still paying for that. But what are the new platforms and new ways to be able to interact with that? Navigation. Now, you might think this is kind of like, why talk about this? But I'm fascinated with the story of Waze. How many use Waze? right? And what makes Waze worthwhile? Say it louder. You know where the police are. I like that. And I know where there's a car on the side of the road. And why do I know that on my Waze app? Because one of you, when you were driving down that road, said, oops, there's a cop. Is he visible or not? And where is that? And I get a warning a half a mile before I'm driving down, almost instantaneously after you post that update. Crowd sharing of information. Now, why in the world, and I've been asked this question, why in the world would I make the effort to actually update that information? Well, for me, there's two reasons. One is that I'm hoping if I do that, then others will do it for me, and we'll all benefit, right? We have millions of sensors out there that are telling Waze information that I have access to. But you know the second reason I do it? I get points. And we laugh at that. And somebody asked, I mean, literally in a presentation, somebody asked me, so why do you update that? And I said, I get points. And in Tennessee, I'm in the top 1% of Wazers. And you know what I get on my little icon? A crown. And they say, well, what do you get with your points? And I said, I get points. But that gamification idea, right? I mean, in terms of sharing information, I'll have a few more things to say about that, but for me, that Waze thing is really pretty interesting. By the way, if you don't know this, I've actually gone into the web Waze and updated the map that was wrong. I was a couple of different places where the roads weren't right, and I actually added roads and changed roads. Again, do you know how many people Waze employed when Google purchased them for what, $1.2 billion? They had 30 employees. Why? Because we were doing all the work. Well, how does that translate, right? For clients wanting to do their own stuff on a portal, for example, right? Payments. I'll have more to say about payments. I think payments is a huge issue that as an industry we need to address in a much, much better way. So I'll come back to that one. And certainly you all as Vertafore and your partnership with DocuSign are tackling the electronic signature piece. I started really kind of focusing on that over 2 years ago. And it is a huge time saver. But you talk about creating a better customer experience, right? Being able to electronically get things signed, applications and things like that. So great. Now, idea there. Now, here's your challenge. How do you get your users to actually use it, right? Oh, my clients don't want that. Well, again, experiences are changing. So here's a couple things. So, and I kind of phrase it this way. I'm a very curious person. I like learning things. I like exploring things. It's one of the reasons why I do what I do today. For those of you that don't know, I've worked in 2 retail agencies, total of about 25 years between the two, one in Washington, D.C. area, one in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In the Washington, D.C. area, this will really date me, I actually brought in, installed, figured out, kept running our first in-house agency management system. It was about this big. It was a Data General CS100 machine. Big reel-to-reel tape backups, lots of blinking lights, green screens. Didn't do anything, but it looked cool. And it cost $100,000. And at that time, it was about 1982. And we were fortunate to represent Travelers, and they paid for it. It was a great time. Anybody remember those days? So I like exploring new ideas and figuring out how they might apply to our industry. So this section here is crowd sharing services. Huge discussion going on in the insurance industry, right, from the coverage side. So I'm kind of a techie, geeky, but I also have this insurance geeky side to me too. So I'm actually writing an article right now on the insurance implications of crowd sharing services, right, and the livery exclusion and the policy and all that kind of stuff. But guess what? We look at some of these things, so Airbnb, people. And what are these platforms, Airbnb and Uber, what do these platforms do? All they've created is a communication vehicle between two parties. I don't think either one of them have any idea when they first started what they were creating, but it kind of grew up. Why? Because they tapped into the ability of people connecting and communicating together. That Chicago trip that Karen and I took in December, I normally would rent a car. I'm kind of that kind of guy. I want control over, right, getting places. I decided not to. I did Uber Black in Chicago the entire time, and it actually worked great, right? But is that a potential disruption for insurance agencies? Perhaps, right? Disrupting taxis, disrupting how things are done. Now we have the insurance implications. By the way, just so you know, 2 insurance companies right now are stepping up to innovate coverage solutions. Erie Insurance has announced that in Illinois and Indiana, they're going to provide an endorsement that provides coverage for Uber drivers. USAA has made that same announcement for Colorado. They're tipping their, stepping into the water, trying to figure out innovation in terms of coverage. How about the client communicating some of these issues with their own? So, quote out of Property and Casualty 360, an insurer that creates an innovative product that addresses new market potential, new kind of policy add-on, may increase its market share while benefiting the general public. And that innovation mindset is what I think we need to think about. How about safety technology? Right, so all kinds of different things going on now. Isn't it fascinating? I've been following kind of the driverless car thing for several years. And I still have a quote from the CEO of Progressive from 2 years ago. You know what? And I didn't put it in here, but the quote was, driverless cars, we won't have to worry about for 20 years. 2 years ago. By the way, do we have driverless cars now? Right, now what impact does that have, by the way? So if you actually, again, if you believe Larry Page, what he's said is that Google driverless cars and the ecosystem they're building will reduce automobile accidents by 90%. That's unbelievable. So don't believe that. How about just 25%? Personal auto and commercial auto together represent $199 billion in premium in the United States. If you reduce accidents by 25%, what's that going to do? You think the state regulators are going to let the prices stay high? Nope, it's going to come down, right? And all kinds of implications there. So again, how are agencies going to respond to that? What are they going to have to do to take a look at that and that commission change? And by the way, it's not just the personal auto, commercial auto premium, because if we have less accidents, what also don't we need? Body shops, chiropractors, emergency room personnel, right? You kind of go on down the line. And so it's here and here pretty fast. Crowdfunding. I put this in here, again, just because I'm weird this way, but I kind of think Kickstarter. Anybody done a Kickstarter project? Yeah, a few. Is it even within the realm of possibility that somebody could kickstart an insurance company? By the way, who would have thought a year ago that Google would be starting to sell insurance? By the way, they've been in the United Kingdom for 5 years. I've just been waiting for them to come here. There's no question in my mind. And by the way, who else am I waiting to announce something in this city? Amazon. Why in the world wouldn't they? And here's part of what's really interesting to me thinking about those things. It is, I've been in this industry too long. I know all the reasons why it can't be done. So it's going to take somebody from outside. By the way, do you think the people who started Uber thought of all the reasons why they couldn't do a taxi company, quote unquote? Right? No. They went ahead and started it. And so even looking at, I've done about 25 or 30 projects on Kickstarter. Here's one of my latest ones, which was really interesting. You talk about understanding your car. And so this project actually had a device that would plug into your car, kind of similar to the Progressive Snapshot, right? The driver information stuff. But then you have an app. And the app will show you all of the health and stuff on your car. Ever wondered what all those lights and numbers mean? And by the way, think about implications here. Whose data is all that vehicle data? Now we have black boxes in our cars. Is that another data source for underwriting information? Or do we even need to have an interview with an adjuster? Just give me your data from the accident. That's all I need. Your story is probably inaccurate anyway. right? So how does that change? And another data source there. So those are just some of the projects I backed. I've done everything from music to hardware to movies to all kinds of interesting stuff. So changing demographics, huge issue for our industry, right? Had a discussion at breakfast this morning. We've got average age of an insurance agency owner is 57, upper 50s. What does that mean? By the way, I'm absolutely convinced, I don't have the actual statistics to say this, but I'm absolutely convinced that the average age of the agency owner reflects the average age of agency staff and average age of agency clients. So we have this whole issue of younger generations coming in. And by the way, do you think a 25-year-old coming out of college is going to come into an insurance agency and sit down at TAM and be enthralled with the technology innovation? Oh, that was just a little, I know my audience, so come on. But, I mean, think about it. My example is my brother-in-law has a small agency in the Washington, D.C. area. His daughter, Lindsay, 25 years old, came into the agency about 2 years ago. And I was invited to come in and help kind of mentor Lindsay and looking at systems. And she was immediately attracted to what in terms of system design? Browser-based, web, navigation, hyperlink, click, right? Because that's just what it is. So we talk about changing demographics. Well, one of the issues here for me is the marketing piece of this. How is an agency today going to attract that consumer? You talk about a changing customer expectation and a different customer experience for a younger population. I think it's huge. And so what tools can you provide? And are you providing? And you're doing it. But high student loan debt means home ownership's delayed, they're younger, they're waiting to marry longer, named all kinds of issues surrounding that demographic and what that means. Well, we're going to have tools, right? We're going to have ability to communicate with them via text. Really? I don't do text. Well, the 25-year-old does, or the 30-year-old does, or even the 60-year-old does. So what are we doing to build that in as simply another method of communication? And there's some interesting stuff going on with that. So Seth Godin, you may or may not know, I really like this quote of his. He talks about the question about technology is, how does technology help advance our business? Absolutely the wrong question, according to him at least. How does this technology undermine our existing business model and require us or enable us to build a new one? Wow, that's really hard to do, isn't it? Especially in an industry like ours. Kevin Kerridge, head of Hiscox, small business, love this quote. We are effectively a technology and marketing business that just so happens to be in the insurance space. When a consumer comes to our website, they are not comparing us to Geico, Progressive, or The Hartford. They are comparing us to Amazon, Zappos, and Expedia, or pick any other site, right? That experience that people are getting there. I have one agency in Wisconsin I'm doing some work with over the last year, CEO, 200-employee agency, 5 different locations. I was really attracted to this agency owner because he said to me, we need to be a technology company that happens to sell insurance. Whole different mindset than the vast majority of agencies out there, but that's what we're dealing with. So current customers, who are the real disruptors? It is agency customers, isn't it? Customers don't walk into an office, they pull out their mobile phones. So what, again, tools. Now again, you're developing, you're getting there with browser agnostic and mobile responsive types of interaction. They don't just expect a flawless experience, but one tailored to their taste, their needs, what they want right now. We've got data in our systems. Why aren't we using that to tailor the experience just to that individual? Technology enabling us to do that. Difference between success and failure comes down to quality and consistency of agency processes, which I would argue are not very good. And an enormous opportunity for those that are nimble enough to seize it. To me, that's a key thought and an idea here. So 2 types of consumers that agencies have now, connected and not connected. I won't spend a lot of time talking about that, but I think you get what I mean. So agencies still have consumers that like paper. We still need to deal with that and have processes in place, but we can't leave it there. We've got to deal with the connected consumer, and this has absolutely nothing to do with age. We have old people who like connected stuff. We have young people who don't. But identifying what that customer wants and creating the experience they say they want. So what makes a good customer experience? Again, I like this from Terry Jones. Terry Jones, former CEO of Travelocity, founder of Kayak. Fascinating. I've heard him speak several times, read his book called On Innovation. Very interesting. And part of what he says is customers no longer need you for information. They need you for advice. There's plenty of information out there, isn't there? But how do we get that into actionable information and things that people can use and helping them make the right decision? And what tools? So a couple just ideas here. Many of these you're doing well. Electronic policy access. I saw the demo of the, in fact, I have a picture, we'll go right here. The client portal, huge. Need to get that out as fast as possible, and you need to pound on your agencies to get it in place. Because from a client information security standpoint, from all kinds of issues, we need to be delivering information to our clients through portals like this, not email attachments. You know the number one issue in agencies that I find today? Number one productivity issue is email. Huge problem. Why? Because email manages agency staff. Agency staff doesn't manage email. And so a huge issue here in terms of providing that delivery options and access. So love this and extending that out into whatever else that might look like. Again, we talk signatures. I'm not going to go into that in depth here, but the idea is another example, of creating a better experience. The example I always use with agents is my personal one. I had lost a credit card. This was last year. Called up the credit card company, canceled the card, went online, saw my account, disputed a couple of charges that I couldn't identify. Agent asked, I need you to sign a document. Right? Is this still your email address? Yes, it is. Will you check your inbox? I did. There was an email with an attachment to it. Opened it up. It was a PDF file, fillable. Had to click 2 boxes. Bottom of it, red button. Click, sign by clicking here. Click. Stamped in the information. Another button popped up, submit. Click. Sent it automatically back. Got an email just minutes later confirming that they had received that document back. You know what I ask agents? How do you get a signature on an application? Now, the deeper integration that you're doing with DocuSign is going to help that process significantly, both for internal productivity and for client satisfaction and client experience. And I won't go into the details. Mobile, and again, another book, Mobile Mindshift, Josh Bernoff. This whole idea, it's not about devices, it's about a mind shift. And so they talk about, you can see some stuff there, but they really talk about mobile moments. And so what is a mobile moment in a insurance agency's life cycle, client life cycle? Well, we've struggled with mobile apps, and what do people want, and what would they do, and do they really want an app on their phone? And that's where my payment discussion comes back up, because I believe the number one activity that an agency has with every one of their clients is payment. But you know what agencies did 20 years ago, 25 years ago? Certainly for direct bill, and by the way, I think direct bill is a great thing, but they moved that payment process off to the insurance company. And now the client pays the insurance company. Guess what the client thinks now? Well, why do I need the agency? And so you can go on LinkedIn. You can see an article I wrote on LinkedIn suggesting that as an industry, we need to create a way for payments to happen, but for the agency to control the payment process on agency bill and direct bill. And you know why? This chart. U.S. Federal Reserve in New York has been tracking since 2003 non-cash transactions, right? So everything but cash. Really 4 primary areas: paper checks, debit cards, credit cards, ACH, and actually the 5th one at the very bottom is prepaid stuff. But look what's happened over the years. What's happened to paper checks? You know that. You experienced that too, right? But in our industry, what have we done? What have agents done? Well, I'll come pick the check up or mail the check or, right? And the number one time of interaction, so here, if a client's on the agency website and they make a payment, because now we have information, we can, we've got the infrastructure in place to get it from the insurance company. They can make the payment, we process the payment, they're on the website. Guess what we can do after they make a payment? Oh, by the way, do you want fries with that? Right? I say this all the time, I'm convinced that every agency staff person needs to work at McDonald's for 6 months. Because if they can teach a high school kid to ask, do you want fries with that? We need to learn something. But having that opportunity to interact with the client, right? Now again, payment industry and there are all kinds of issues and all kinds of things there, but guess what? Don't say we can't, figure out how. You'll see that come back. By the way, I wrote a white paper on it, just if you're interested. And as another way to demonstrate communication, if you text the word pay to that phone number, you will get that white paper delivered to you via email. It's another example of a communication process I have in place to be able to interact with clients. So I don't carry business cards anymore. Somebody asked me, do you have a business card? I said, no, I don't, but if you give me your card, I'll be glad to follow up with an email with my contact information. Guess what I do with that card? I pull out my phone. I have an app. I take a picture of the card. A person transcribes that business card into a form. I actually put a tag on that form and maybe add a little information about where they were, where I got the card from. That form is sent to my platform, my system. That tag that I put on there automatically sets up a follow-up email that says, by the way, I have two different ones. 1 hour follow-up and next day follow-up. Email's a little bit different. Nice meeting you today. It was a pleasure meeting you yesterday. Here's my contact information. Here's my V-card attached. Guess what then happens? I have a process in place that will research that email address on every social platform out there and come back and add that information to their profile. Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Facebook? Do they have a Gravatar? Are they on Cloud? How many Twitter followers do they have? What's their Facebook page? Link. And then guess what? If that LinkedIn tag is applied based on that research, 2 weeks later an email automatically goes out to them and says, hey, looks like you're on LinkedIn. I am too. And I'm fairly active on LinkedIn, so I'd love to connect with you. So here's a link to my profile. If you send me a connection request, I'll be glad to accept it. All I did was what? Take a picture of the business card. So we talk about processes in place and staying in touch and communication. This is the kind of thing that I think, at least, we need to pay attention to. So, and that really is kind of the internet presence idea there, is being able to follow up and having another point of connection. And so this was a quote I had in an article that came out earlier this week talking about the Google stuff. And what I said was an agency cannot out-Google Google, but they can out-local Google. Right? So again, all that social platform stuff, we need to build that into the communication pieces that we have within our clients and be able to do that. So maximizing customer engagement, there's just some examples there. And follow-up, fixing follow-up failure. It's been a passion of mine literally probably for 20 years. And here's why I say there's a problem. This is a chart from a question from ComScore, right? Many people know ComScore, online research for web interactions, talking about personal auto policies, and they asked the question, how often does your agent communicate or interact with you? The first one is, how often do they meet in person? Now, this is personal auto, so frankly, I think that's appropriate. We can't meet in person with all of those clients. But here's the second one, how often do you speak with your agent? 63% said rarely, 10% said never. 73% of respondents, at least for personal auto, said my agent rarely speaks with me. I think we've got a follow-up failure problem. How many even receive communication? And again, you can see 39 and 20. What's that mean? Agents don't follow up. If I had more time, I'd give you my experience with my own agent independent agent in the Nashville area. I won't never give their name out. They have literally, I've been with them now 10 years, never have contacted me without me initiating the contact. That's follow-up failure. What do you think is the average number of personal lines policy per account for an independent insurance agency in the United States? Number of policies per account. So 2, 3, 8, 2. 5? 1.44 is the best number that I have right now. 1.44. What does that mean for an independent agent? They don't cross-sell. They think they do. They say they do. They lie. And again, what are you building into your platform to help them do that? How do they bring a new client on? Right? Tech industry. All kinds of discussion around onboarding new clients, letting them know all the things that you do. What does an agent do? They might send a letter, hey, thanks for doing business with our agency. I talk about a process. Onboarding a new client, 9 touches over 90 days. What's that going to do for renewal? What's that going to do for, oh, by the way, do you know we sell health insurance? Oh, by the way, do you know we sell pet insurance? I'll tell you this, I talk to agents about selling stupid insurance coverages. And it always gets their attention because, well, insurance isn't stupid. Yeah, well, some of these coverages are. So what's I already kind of gave it away. What's the fastest growing line of insurance right now? Pet. I don't have a pet. I never had a pet. I don't like pets. I don't get it. But I live with a woman who loves pets. And I have paid a few of those vet bills, by the way. That's a stupid insurance coverage. I had 2 daughters that got married the same year, 2 years, actually 2.5, 3 years ago now. I bought wedding insurance. How about travel insurance? How about, right? But what are agents doing? Oh, we're beneath that. We don't sell. Do people buy it? All day long. So again, this follow-up failure. So actually, this is a picture out of my marketing platform. This is a campaign. This is, how do they get into the campaign? What do you do with them here? If this tag is applied, automatically, they're little minions. I love that picture, right? Remember the minions? They're little minions in the background, and if that tag applies, the minion goes, ooh, let's do this. Or some of you have experienced it. On my Tech Tip newsletter I send out every week, you click on anything in that newsletter, I know it. And I perhaps will do a follow-up in a different way because I know what you're interested in. And by the way, now I can customize, back to what I said before, customize that experience for that individual. The technology is out there right now. My hope is that you will bring that to your clients and help them actually be able to increase their business. That's what they say they want. So there's the service automation onboarding process, all kinds of things automating the internal processes. One of my questions, Doug and I talked about this a little bit, one of my questions is, why in the world does a CSR have to initiate an activity when I know 90 days before the renewal date, here's what I want to have happen? That should be automated, right? So I have a birthday follow-up that I put somebody's birthday in their contact record, and the morning of, now I don't do it for everybody, I do it for people I know because I think it's creepy to get a birthday wish from somebody that I don't really know, okay? But it automatically goes out with an email, and by the way, I just edited it January 1st, so I have a new email going out for the rest of this year, and just says, hey, happy birthday. Touch automated. Do I get interaction? I get feedback? Hey, thanks, right? So how can we do that? So my question is, or my last comment is, so often in our industry we say, well, we can't do that because. And my hope is we begin thinking, not if, but how. How can we do that? Not if we should do that. Because guess what? Your customers, as agency owners, die off. Oh, should I be more politically correct? But, reality is, the age of agency owners, you're going to get new owners coming in. You're going to get new people with mindset. You're going to get more people thinking, we're a technology company that happens to sell insurance. And your challenge, your hope, what you're working toward, what I'm seeing, is being able to fill in that gap and helping them be able to do that. So that's me. I have a goal this year that I'm publicly announcing, I think to my chagrin, but my goal is in May of this year to finish a mini triathlon. So it's a 200-yard swim, it's a 10-mile bike ride, and it's a 2-mile run. And that's me out with a friend of mine who's helping me train on my bike. And that's actually on the Natchez Trace Bridge overlooking Highway 96. That's about a few miles from my house. And Natchez Trace, if you don't know, goes from Nashville down to Tupelo, Mississippi. It is actually a designated bike trail and road. And what I've discovered as I've started riding more, and I've really enjoyed the cycling, what I've discovered is sometimes when I'm going up a hill, where am I focused? Where do you think I'm focused? Because I'm not really very good. I'm in that lowest gear. In fact, I'm looking for the lower gear, right? And my eyes are focused just on the wheel in front of me. Why? Because I can't quite look up that big hill yet. Because I'm not quite sure. If I do that, I'm going to stop probably. But if I can focus just on that little piece in front of me. But once I get up that hard part, then what do? Oh, I love the downhills. Right? I'm out of breath. I'm like, I got to stop. I got to rest. No, I can keep going. Ken's out there going, no, you can do it. And then I get up there and I can start looking out into the future. So there are times when we need to look and focus on this, but there are times when we need to look out and plan and think about what's ahead of us. Is technology changing fast? You guys know that probably better than I do. I could give you so many examples of what I see out there that could help your agency clients, certainly help you to deliver an effective and help the agencies create a great customer experience. So I'll leave with this quote again. I'm so excited about the next few years. I'm so excited about what's out there, what's coming, what you're working on. Do it faster. I'm sure you don't hear that, right? Get it out there faster. Come on. But there's a huge opportunity there for those, and I think this is a really key word, nimble enough, right? Nimble enough to seize it. As an organization, I see that in the stuff that I've seen even yesterday and today. That you are working on that. I think one of the things that impresses me with Vertafore, certainly over the last, year or 18 months, is the fact that you are doing things faster. And it really is great. And we've got to get the other parties in our ecosystem to work on that too. Who? Agencies? They need to be more nimble and faster. Carriers? Oh my gosh, I won't even go there. But that mindset, right? That legacy mindset, that muscle memory that we can't do it or why do we need to? But all three of those parties need to work together. It's a great time, I think, to be in the insurance industry, and I think there's great opportunity for agents and for a company like Vertafore. So what I hope I've been able to do here in just a few minutes that I've had is give you a picture, at least what I see, what I look at, what's out there. I interact with agents all the time, and I hope it's given you an encouragement, the fact that you really are working to help those clients out there do better and build their businesses long term. So thank you for allowing me to talk for a few minutes.